It landed gently in front of Chidinma, and then, within a split second, it drifted towards Ifeinwa, who picked it up, not realizing the significance of what she had done. Some villagers cheered, while others, especially the men, were disappointed. They had hoped for a chance with her. The maidens, too, were envious. Who is this stranger in our midst who had won? They thought bitterly. The cheers continued, and the chief priest approached her. "Congratulations, young maiden," he said, smiling. "I'm sorry, but I don't know what this is all about. I just want to go home," she replied calmly. "You have been chosen by the gods to be the next queen," he said. "What?" "I humbly decline. Please, I don't want this," she answered, as calmly as she could. "My daughter, I don't understand why you are saying this. This is an opportunity that every maiden dreams of," he said. "I don't want to offend anyone, but I do not want to be queen," she said again. "Hey!" the crowd exclaimed. "Such a proud woman," one person muttered. "Such rudeness. She's so full of herself," another remarked. Ifeanyi felt a bitter taste in his mouth. Why? He asked himself. Chidinma, on the other hand, felt a cold dread settled over her since the feather had drifted towards the strange maiden. Though it wasn't her fault, but she could feel her mother's disapproving glare. The king called Ifeinwa and took her hand in his. "Whose daughter are you?" he asked. "I am Mazi Nnamna's daughter, my king," she replied. "All right, my child, this will be settled, but for now the gods have chosen you for my son, and we do not wish to defy them," he said gently. Ifeinwa looked at him. She didn't want to go against the gods, and since the king had spoken to her so kindly, she reluctantly agreed. "Okay, my king," she said. The musicians began playing celebratory songs, and the king placed her hand in Ifeanyi's hand. He looked at her, but she didn't meet his gaze. He held her close, and though their bodies seemed to feel perfectly together, she never reciprocated. Ifeinwa felt irritated, but didn't want to cause any more drama. "I should never have come here," she thought. Some rituals were performed, and the king declared them husband and wife. Zimuzo and her husband were overjoyed, but they couldn't help but notice the sadness and anger on their daughter's face. They knew the reason behind it. As the celebration continued, foods and drinks were served in abundance. Chidinma, unable to cope with the situation, had run off to think and clear her mind. When everyone left for their houses, Zimuzo walked up to her daughter, took her hand and looked into her eyes. "I'm sorry you are unhappy with this, my child. I understand your pain, but I think it's time you let go and be happy. Let the past remain in the past," she said. "Mother, I'm only doing this for you. I shouldn't even be here today," she replied, raising her voice. "I'm sorry, but I'm not happy with how things have turned out. Over the last 7 years, I have tried to let go, but maybe I'm not meant for happiness. Maybe I'm incapable of forgiveness," she added. "It's okay, my child," her father said, joining them. "Just take small steps, and one day you will reach your destination. We will leave you with your new family, but we will be sure to visit," Zimuzo said as they left. Ifeinwa contemplated running away. She wondered if anyone would come after her if she did. Slowly she walked into the palace. It was night and everyone was preparing to sleep. The king and queen had already retired to their chambers, leaving her alone with Ifeanyi. His eyes roved over her body. Since the moment he saw her, She had been angry, and it seemed like she didn't want to be there. He stretched out his hands towards her, but she looked at him with disgust. He wondered why her anger was directed at him. "Where is my room?" she asked. We are supposed to share a room together," he replied. "In your wildest dreams." She shot back. "As far as I'm concerned, you are a stranger to me, and I won't sleep with a stranger," she said. "I am your husband, and you should start getting used to that," Ifeanyi said, growing frustrated. "Okay, if you won't give me a separate room, I will return to my father's house," she said, heading for the door. "Wait, I will take you to your room," he said, annoyed. She waited as he fetched her some clothes. He opened the door next to his own and handed her the clothes, hoping she would change her mind, but she simply took them and closed the door behind her. Ifeanyi heard the click of the lock. She didn't want to talk to him anymore. He remembered that she hadn't eaten anything all day, so he sent a palace maid to bring her food. The palace maid knocked on Ifeanyi's door. "It's me, my queen. I have brought you something to eat," she said. "Please go away. I don't want to eat anything," Ifeanyi replied. The maid left after waiting a few minutes. Ifeanyi took a bath and put on the clothes Ifeanyi had given to her only because they were new. She lay on the bed, reflecting on the day's event. She wished she could turn back the hand of time. She hated being married to the man who had once bullied her. She hated being married against her will. Maybe I should run away and start a new life, she thought. But that would be defying the gods. This marriage would be miserable for the both of us, she thought, as she slowly drifted off to sleep. In his room, Ifeanyi wondered, why does she hate me? Her anger runs deep, as if it's directed at me personally. There is more to this than I understand. He had felt a primal urge to go to her, but he knew it wasn't possible. She had shut him out even before their marriage had even begun. She was close, yet so far away. Ifeanyi had always wanted a woman of his own, but now it seemed all hope was lost. His thought swirled until sleep finally claimed him. The next morning, the royal household bustled with activities as usual. It was almost noon, but Ifeanyi still hadn't left her room. Ifeanyi began to worry and went to his mother, who called out to Ifeanyi from outside the door. "Good morning, mother," Ifeanyi greeted, her voice still groggy from sleep. "Good morning, my daughter. How are you?" she asked. Ifeanyi bowed her head. The queen entered the room and sat with her on the bed. "My child, I don't know what you have against my son, but please, I beg you, let it go," she said. "My son deserves happiness, and I know you do too." Her mother had said the same thing the day before. "Okay, mother, I will try, I promise," Ifeanyi replied with a small smile. "Good. Now take a bath and have some breakfast," the queen said, leaving the room. Ifeanyi sat for a moment thinking. Maybe it's time to let go, she thought. She took a bath, dressed, and went outside after breakfast. "Good morning, my queen," Ifeanyi greeted her. "Good morning," she replied, walking away. She would need some time to get used to him. He was her crush, her first love, but he crushed her heart when she thought he would protect her. They would only greet each other for the next few days, and slowly they began to spend more time together. One day, Ifeanyi asked why she didn't want to marry him at first, and Ifeanyi opened up to him about the past. "I thought I was being cool. My friends were doing it, so I thought it was normal for me to join them." Ifeanyi felt so bad, and so he asked for her forgiveness, and she forgave him. Meanwhile, Chidinma's mother made their home unbearable for her. She accused her of failing even though it was clearly not her fault. Chidinma cried, unsure of what to do. Ifeanyi and his wife had spent the entire afternoon together, and they enjoyed each other's company greatly. Ifeanyi was smart, beautiful, and funny. He couldn't help but love her more. On the other hand, Ifeanyi thought Ifeanyi was handsome and intelligent, and also a good listener. They both began to believe that their marriage might work. Their bond grew stronger with each passing day, and their chemistry was undeniable. 1 month had passed since their marriage, and everything seemed to be going well. One day, Chidinma's mother drove her out of the house, telling her that she could only return when she became the queen. Her father said nothing, as if he was under his wife's control. Chidinma cried and went to the palace to see Ifeanyi. They met in the garden and sat down to talk. "You forgot me, Ifeanyi," she began. "Don't say that, Chidinma. You knew this was going to happen eventually. It's tradition," he said, looking at her. "I know, but I really thought we could end up together. We fit so well, don't you think?" she asked. Ifeanyi remained silent. "How's your new wife?" she asked again. "She's fine," he replied. They talked for a while, and Ifeanyi told her that she could always come to him whenever she needed. When Chidinma returned home, she began thinking of ways to become Ifeanyi's wife. One evening, Ifeanyi and Ifeanyi shared a room together, their eyes filled with passion and love as they made love repeatedly throughout the night, falling asleep in each other's arms. It felt like magic for the both of them. One rainy day, Chidinma's mother packed Chidinma's bags and threw her out of the house again, calling her names. With nowhere else to go, she went to the palace. She told Ifeanyi that her parents were trying to force her to marry an old man and that she needed a place to stay until she figured out what to do. Ifeanyi agreed and gave her a room in the maid's quarters. Later that night, Ifeanyi told his wife what Chidinma had told him. Though she didn't fully believe the story, but she said nothing. While living in the palace, Chidinma seldom came out of her room. A week passed and she continued to avoid Ifeanyi, only coming out when she knew Ifeanyi wasn't around. One day, Ifeanyi felt an urge to visit her grandmother. She told her husband, who suggested to accompany her. She was overjoyed at the thought of her grandmother meeting her husband. They packed their bags and informed the king and queen of their journey. However, on the day of their departure, the king suddenly called Ifeanyi and told him that he needed him to send an urgent message to a friend in a distant kingdom. Ifeanyi asked if the task could be postponed or if someone else could deliver the message, but the king declined, saying he trusted only Ifeanyi with it. Ifeanyi informed his wife, who was not so pleased. He suggested cancelling the trip and traveling together when he returned, but Ifeanyi insisted on going that day. She told him that they could make the trip together another time. Within 3 days, Ifeanyi delivered the message and returned. Exhausted, he asked a maid to bring some food to his room. As the maid walked with the food, Chidinma intercepted and offered to take it to him. Since the maid had seen her with Ifeanyi numerous times, she trusted her and handed the tray to her. Chidinma secretly added a sleeping potion to the wine. When she entered the room, Ifeanyi was surprised. "Chidinma, how have you been?" he asked. "I'm well, thank you," she replied. She set the food down and sat beside him. Ifeanyi felt uncomfortable with her presence in the room, but didn't want to make her feel unwelcome. They talked while he ate, but soon he fell asleep due to the spiked wine. Once Chidinma was sure he was in a deep sleep, she lay down beside him. Ifeanyi woke up when he felt someone beside him. "Obim," he called, thinking it was his wife. "Are you back already?" he asked. "What time did you get back?" When no response came, he turned to look at the woman in his arms and was shocked. Chidinma was naked beside him, and he realized he was naked too. "What have you done?" he shouted. Chidinma's eyes shot open. "What do you mean? You forced me into your bed. You told me how much you loved me and how much you wanted me," she said. "Get out now," he yelled. Chidinma hurriedly dressed and left the room. Ifeanyi was devastated, unable to believe what had happened. He loved his wife deeply, and they had just begun working on their marriage. How could this have happened? Since no one knew, he planned to keep it that way. A few days later, Ifeanyi returned from her journey, happy and glowing, but Ifeanyi couldn't meet her gaze. He felt ashamed of himself. Ifeanyi noticed his odd behavior, but assumed he was tired, and when she asked, he never said anything. It continued for several days until she asked the queen if anything unusual had happened while she was away. The queen assured her that everything was fine. A month later, Chidinma asked Ifeanyi to meet her. It was the first time they had seen each other since the incident. They walked to the garden and Chidinma began. "I'm pregnant, Ifeanyi, and the child is yours," she said. "What? How can you be pregnant? It was just one time." "Oh gods, help me," he cried. "What do you want to do?" he asked. "Nothing. I will keep the child, and you will have to marry me," she said. "I can't marry you, Chidinma. I love my wife," he said. "I don't care," she replied. "What is going on here?" a voice interrupted, startling them both. "Is it true, Ifeanyi?" Ifeanyi asked. Ifeanyi couldn't say anything. Ifeanyi walked away crying, with Ifeanyi following her. The queen saw them and took them inside. Then she asked them what the problem was. They explained everything. "This is wrong. How did it happen, Ifeanyi?" the king demanded. "I don't know, father. I don't remember anything," he replied. "Very well. Chidinma, you will have to move into the palace. If she is indeed pregnant, I cannot allow my grandchild to be born outside the palace walls," the king said. "Father, I don't agree with this," Ifeanyi protested. "My daughter, this is how it must be. After she gives birth, Ifeanyi will have to marry her as his second wife," the king added. "My hands are tied." Ifeanyi's heart shattered at his words. "Then I will leave. If she stays, I will leave this marriage," she declared. "No, Ifeanyi, you can't do this," Ifeanyi pleaded. "I have the right to leave. Once the prince or king takes a second wife, the first wife is allowed to leave if she wishes. You won't stop me," she said. Ifeanyi had never felt so devastated, not even when they had first gotten married. Chidinma moved into the palace and was treated as a queen. When her mother heard about it, she visited, but Chidinma refused to see her. Nevertheless, her mother was pleased with her daughter that she had finally found her way into royalty. Ifeanyi moved back into her old room and stopped talking to Ifeanyi. They lived like strangers. Over time, Chidinma tried to get closer to Ifeanyi, but he avoided her at every opportunity. As the months passed, Chidinma's proclaimed pregnancy showed no signs of growth, and she began insisting that she marry Ifeanyi. However, the king urged her to wait until after her birth. "Hey!" one of the maidens suddenly shouted out, drawing the attention of others. No wonder she wouldn't let us massage her back, but she would always complain about back pain like other pregnant women. "But there is no baby." The noise reached the queen, who went to investigate. What she found was shocking. Chidima's stomach was as flat as a washboard. "What happened to the pregnancy?" the queen demanded. "I'm sorry, my queen," Chidima stammered. "Bring her to the throne room," the queen ordered the maidens. There, in front of the king, Ifeanyi and Ifeinwa, Chidima confessed. "My mother pushed me to do it. I was so desperate that I put something in the prince's wine and lay naked beside him. He never forced me. I am so sorry, my king. Please forgive me," she cried. "You deceived us for several months," the king said angrily. "You caused so much pain between my son and daughter-in-law. Leave this palace and never show your face here again, or you will regret it," the king shouted. Chidima fled from the palace. Ifeanyi knelt before Ifeinwa, begging her for her forgiveness. "I'm so sorry for allowing someone into our home who nearly destroyed our marriage," he said. They embraced and Ifeinwa forgave him. This story emphasizes on several moral lessons. Because people are doing it doesn't make it right. We should learn to differentiate good from bad. As humans, boundaries are essential. As a married man or woman, boundaries are more essential. Ifeanyi allowed Chidima to cross their friendship boundaries, which nearly destroyed his marriage. As parents, we should protect our children, not force them into doing something that isn't right. Either it's a boy or a girl child. A child is a child. It's a gift from God. True love requires patience and understanding. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoy. Please don't forget to like, comment, and share. See you in our next one. Bye.